about yourself, and then at the end of the meeting, the board will vote on your application and we'll get back to you. So, you have the floor to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure,
Mr.
sounds
Chair, I'm
good.
wondering if she would be willing to put on her video so we.
Yeah, are you able to put it
Am
in?
I-
in your
I'm
camera.
trying to do that. I
Okay.
believe I'm on a Mac computer
Ah.
and it's not allowing me to do that.
Okay,
Not a big deal.
Oh, no.
okay, go for it, Divya.
So I grew up in India and I completed my dental education there and graduated in 2009. I had some exposure to people from all walks of life, including the underserved out there. In 2010, I moved to the United States and I pursued advanced training in endodontics at University of California, Los Angeles. And post that, I joined University of California, San Francisco, and graduated as a dentist in 2014. I've been practicing in Minnesota and Wisconsin states since then. My husband is a gastroenterologist at Mayo since 2008, and that's what made my move from California to Minnesota.
Great.
Terrific.
Go ahead, Greg.
Please, yeah. I do appreciate your application, and I think it'll be a great addition because, to my knowledge, we haven't had anybody that would represent the dentistry and oral care part of public health. And I think that that's really good, but maybe I'm wrong. But
At one time, Commissioner Flynn's brother made a presentation to the public health.
Yeah, no, so she-
Yes,
well,
and
no
it was
wonder they're
very
so good.
interesting. So I'm really glad to see this happening.
yeah,
It's
it's
very
nice
wealthy.
addition.
It's very wealthy, brother.
But anyway, thank you very much for your application, Divya.
Well, thank you. I would appreciate if I'm given a chance. I've worked at multiple offices, private and corporate, in multiple locations in Minnesota, and also an underserved location in Wisconsin. So, I did see that discrepancy in oral health awareness between different communities, and that's what attracted me to public health.
Well,
Terrific.
thanks again for your application, and we will get back to you later this week.
Shortly.
Yes.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, with that, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the meeting is called to order, and the first item up is the public hearing. So we'll start with how this is going to work is our staff will present on it, and then our outside counsel will present, and then we will open up the public hearing, and you'll get the opportunity to make your comments. Then we will close the public hearing, we'll have discussion, and then we'll take what we learned under advisement, and we'll be making a decision a week from now.
Okay, ready to go? All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ben Griffith. I'm the Olmsted County Planning Director, and I'm going to provide a very general overview of the redistricting process and also present the 6 proposed redistricting plans that are prepared by county staff. I hope this works. Uh-oh. There he goes. Did I do that or did you do that?
Argue about who.
I hope you did that.
Let's say that.
All righty. Oops. I jumped one, I'm sorry. I'm jumping ahead. Come back.
Sometimes that works and
There we
sometimes
go.
it doesn't.
Okay. So every 10 years following the decennial census, districts are redrawn to ensure equal representation due to population changes over the previous decade. Minnesota came within 89 people of losing one of our 8 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives to the state of New York. So truly every person counts. The census count leads to the redistricting process, which evenly distributes the population in election districts for equal representation, which then leads to our democratic election process. For all of us living in Olmsted County, this includes Rochester City Council districts if you live within the city of Rochester, Olmsted County Commissioners, state legislators, for both the House and Senate up in St. Paul, as well as the U.S. House of Representatives in D.C. There we go. So where are we in the redistricting process? Counties go last in the redistricting after congressional reapportionment, after legislative districts are completed, and after municipalities have completed their district boundaries and their voting precinct boundaries, in our case, the city of Rochester. Excuse me. Counties have to follow these precinct boundary lines once they're established before we can even begin the process of updating the county commission district boundaries. I've been telling folks for the last couple of years that we're the caboose of the redistricting train, because we go last. As the redistricting process moves forward, the time allowed to complete each task grows shorter and shorter. The deadline for Olmsted County to complete its redistricting is next Tuesday, April 26th, with submittal to the state by next Thursday, April 28th. So the requirements for redistricting are pretty straightforward. They're defined in the state statutes as well as the Constitution. And the highlights are there must be an equal number of districts for the number of commissioners. In our case, that's 7. They must be bounded by the voting precinct lines as determined by the city of Rochester during the redistricting process, as well as the 7 smaller cities and the 18 townships located within Olmsted County. The districts must be contiguous, they can't be scattered like islands, and they must also be as regular and compact in form as practicable. District populations cannot vary more than 10% from the average. Olmsted County staff, in beginning their work on redistricting, try to adopt some higher standards and maintain we try to adopt higher standards and best practices when we began the process. And the first one was maintaining the integrity of population demographic data by not splitting census blocks. Identification of communities of interest and making every effort not to split these areas, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. Maintaining the integrity of neighborhoods by making every effort not to split officially recognized neighborhood associations, inclusion and consideration of all annexed areas, and making every effort to create commissioner districts which are as close to the target number of 23,264 or within 5% of that target number instead of the 10% allowed. So to clarify a couple of these items, communities of interest are not typically defined in the guidance provided by the Secretary of State, but are generally understood to be people with similar social, geographic, political, cultural, racial, ethnic, economic, or other interests. Some folks, especially planners, use terms such as underrepresented or underserved communities. The communities of interest were identified by the city of Rochester during their redistricting process. Recognized neighborhood associations were those registered with our neighbors and are currently mapped by the city of Rochester. And lastly, county staff included all annexed areas that had been officially approved by the state of Minnesota as of that snapshot in time when the proposed redistricting plans were prepared. Several other annexations are still currently pending. Even though Olmsted County couldn't begin work on its redistricting plans until just a few weeks ago, an informational hub site was created on the county website with information on redistricting for members of the public to use and refer to. County staff also maintained close contact with the City of Rochester staff during the redistricting process to keep each other informed of process and any issues which were encountered. The county redistricting hub site includes current and proposed district maps and plans, redistricting timelines, and a portal to collect community comments and input. This slide includes a snapshot of what that hub looks like online. This slide shows the current county commission districts overlaid with the 2020 census data. The current Commissioner District Plan adopted in 2012 exhibits population deviation percentages of less than 10%, so with the exception of splitting several City of Rochester voting precinct boundaries, it would come very close to meeting the minimum statutory requirements, but just barely. I'd like to point out some of the features on this plan that are used on the following plans for your reference. I don't know if this is going to work or not. Ooh, it will. Okay. So we have a bar graph. Bear with me while I get used to this thing here. So we have a bar graph in the upper, along the top of the plan here, which has a lot of information packed into it. So I'll undo that. There are two vertical axes on the right-hand side and the left-hand side. The one on the left shows population beginning at 17,000 instead of 0, and the one on the right shows the percent of other than non-Hispanic white populations for each of the proposed commissioner districts that are listed at the vertical axes at the bottom, identified as D1 through D7 for each commissioner district. The bar graphs are color coordinated with each proposed commissioner district and includes the total population number of each district with a dashed line running horizontally left to right across about the middle of the graph, representing the target population number for each proposed district, again of 23,264 people. Also in the bar graph, there's a dotted line with larger white dots on or above each colored bar so that it stands out against the background. And this represents the percentage of other than non-Hispanic white population in each of the proposed districts. At the bottom right-hand corner, here we go again, let's see if I can do this. The bottom right-hand corner, there at the very bottom, is a table with numbers that correlate to numbered flag notes on the plan, calling out specific items of concern by county staff, the precinct number, and how the item was addressed. At the top of the redistricting plan, here we go again, let's make sure I get this right. It's not a flashlight. Right here are listed are listed plan goals which identify elements considered by county staff during the creation of the particular redistricting plan. Along with each proposed redistricting plan was another sheet of data, which includes an enlarged bar graph, a data table, and a small map with shaded areas showing where changes were made from the current commissioner districts. Here we go. This slide represents redistricting plan number 1, which shows the least amount of commissioner district boundary changes. No voting precincts were split on this or any other proposed redistricting plan, nor were any census blocks. The maximum absolute deviation for this districting plan is 3.71%. 3 districts, 1, 2, and 3, include 100% Rochester population. District number 6 includes 98.9% Rochester population, while District 5 includes 65.4% Rochester population. All of those are above the 50% mark. The percentages for other than non-Hispanic white populations range from 33.8 to 8.5% for each of the proposed commissioner districts. This slide shows redistricting plan number 2, which also shows the least amount of change of commissioner district boundaries with no precinct splits and no census block splits. Plan 2 also maintains communities of interest as identified by the City of Rochester during their redistricting process. The maximum absolute deviation for this redistricting plan is 2.88%. There are 3 districts, 1, 2, and 3, which include 100% Rochester population. District 6 includes 98.9% Rochester population, while District number 5 includes 65.4% Rochester population. The percentages for other than non-Hispanic white populations range from 32.6 to 10.5% for each of the proposed commissioner districts. The next slide shows redistricting plan number 3, which also shows the least amount of commissioner district boundary changes and no precinct splits. It's an alternate to redistricting plan number 2. Plan number 3 also maintains communities of interest as identified by the City of Rochester. The maximum absolute deviation for this redistricting plan is 2.62%. 4 districts, number 1, 2, 3, and 6, include 100% Rochester population. District 5 excuse me, District 5 includes 64.4% Rochester population, and the percentages for other than Hispanic non-white populations range from 33.0% to 10.5% for each proposed commissioner district. Plan number 4 is shown on this slide, which no precincts or census blocks were split. It also maintains communities of interest identified by the city of Rochester. The maximum absolute deviation for this redistricting plan is 2.51%. 4 districts, 1, 2, 3, and 6, include 100% Rochester population. District 5 includes 97.2% Rochester population. In this plan, we not only see the urban commissioner districts change, but also the rural districts changed as well. District 4 now includes Stewartville, Byron, and portions of Pine Island and Chatfield that are located within Olmsted County, while District 7 now includes Orinoco, Dover, and Iota. The township configurations have changed as well. The percentages for other than non-Hispanic white populations range from 35.2 to 8.9% for each proposed commissioner district. Redistricting Plan number 5 maintains registered neighborhood associations and Rochester communities of interest. The maximum absolute deviation for this redistricting plan is 2.33%. 4 districts, 1, 2, 3, and 6, include 100% Rochester population, and District 5 includes 97.3% Rochester population. District 4 now includes Stewartville, Iota, Dover, and the portions of Chatfield located within Olmsted County. District 7 now includes Orinoco, Byron, and the portions of Pine Island located within Olmsted County. And again, the township configurations have changed as well. The percentages for other than non-Hispanic white populations range from 36.0% to 8.5% per proposed commissioner district. And finally, we have Redistricting Plan number 6, which identifies Rochester communities of interest and maintains registered neighborhood associations. The maximum absolute deviation for this redistricting plan is 3.06%. 3 districts, 1, 2, and 3, include 100% Rochester population. District 6 includes 97.5%, and District 5 includes 68.3% of Rochester population. The percentages for other than non-Hispanic white populations range from 34.4 to 10.4% per proposed commissioner district. Okay. This slide shows the majority-minority population by census block in Olmsted County. As you can see, these census blocks are widely distributed throughout the entire county. I would like to point out that race and ethnicity statistics were not used by county staff to decide where to draw district boundaries, but are presented here for the informational purposes only, to show that it is not possible to have a district with majority-minority representation since these areas are so widely spread throughout the county. Olmsted County is 23.4% other than non-Hispanic white, and 7.7% of all census blocks within Olmsted County are majority-minority as identified by the U.S. Census Bureau. The line graph at the right-hand side of the page shows the percent population for other than non-Hispanic white for each of the proposed redistricting plans, which are shown on the bar graphs of each plan as a dotted line with a large white dot to stand out against the background. And this concludes my PowerPoint presentation. There was a substantial amount of information included with the county board agenda packet for today's public hearing, and this same information was posted onto the county's redistricting website and paper copies distributed to several locations throughout the county, along with comment cards seeking public comment. Online comments have also been submitted, collected, and compiled, and also were provided to the county commissioners today. It appears about half of the online public comments were submitted the day the redistricting plans were posted online and distributed. Comments varied, with some seeking more representation for the city of Rochester, with other commenters seeking equal representation for the smaller cities, townships, and rural areas. The 6 redistricting plans presented here this afternoon were crafted in accordance with with the Minnesota state statutes and guidance provided by the Minnesota Office of Secretary of State. Work began in earnest on these redistricting plans after the city of Rochester adopted their redistricting plan and forwarded their data to county staff. I'll be glad to answer any questions the commissioners may have about the 6 plans at this time, and would remind commissioners that outside counsel will also be providing a presentation. Following her presentation, the public hearing will need to be open to take additional public comments.
Are there any questions for Ben this time? Thank you for your report. All right, now we call up our outside counsel, Ms. Swenson, to.
Claire, you can just leave this right here.
Brief introduction.
Oh, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Brent, for the record, I'm Brent Walls, Assistant Olmsted County Attorney, and I'd like to introduce Kate Swenson. Kate is a partner at Green Espel, a law firm in the Twin Cities, where she focuses her legal practice on governmental and constitutional litigation. Kate is formerly legal counsel for the Minnesota Special Redistricting Panel, and she's prepared the letter report that you have in front of you and will be presenting on her analysis for the plans you have under consideration.
Brett.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Just give me a moment to get set up here. All right, well, thank you for that introduction. I'm pleased to be here today. And before we get started, I just wanted to talk a little bit about my role in this process. And my role is not to tell the board which of these proposed plans that you should pick. Instead, my job is to provide you with information to help you make that decision that complies with the legal requirements. So I will be talking today about those legal requirements and about how the proposed plans that I've reviewed measure up to those requirements. I've written a letter memorandum that presents my analysis. I believe you have a copy of that. And my presentation will walk you through that memo, the main points of it. And then after that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. And let's see if I can figure out how to use this.
Nice.
There we go. All right, well, that's all right. There are 3 main sources of legal requirements that I'm going to talk about today and that are discussed in that letter. The first, there is a Minnesota statutory provision that has the standards for county commissioner districts. That statute is attached to the memo, and what we're most interested in that provision is subdivision 1, which deals with the standards. The second source is the United States Constitution, particularly 2 amendments that were ratified just after the Civil War. One is the 14th Amendment, and that contains the Equal Protection Clause. And that says that the government cannot deny the equal protection of the laws to any person. It says that similarly situated people have to be treated equally. The other amendment is the 15th Amendment, which says that the right to vote shall not be denied or abridged on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. That's a reference to slavery and the abolition of slavery. The final one is the Voting Rights Act of 1965. That's a federal statute that is meant to protect the rights of voters, and it applies to redistricting. And some of these requirements are fairly straightforward, others are more complex, and I will talk about them in the order that I presented in the letter, starting with number 1, which deals with the numbering and the labeling of the districts. This is one of the more straightforward requirements. I've highlighted the text, as you can see on the PowerPoint slide here, and it says that every county shall be divided into as many districts numbered consecutively as it has members of the county board. So here we have 7 members of the county board. All of the plans satisfy this requirement because they each have 7 districts numbered D1 through D7. The second requirement deals with the boundary lines for the districts. I've highlighted the language again. It says commissioner districts shall be bounded by town, municipal, ward, or precinct lines. Because all lines like that also have to correspond with precinct lines, it's probably simpler to think of commissioner district boundaries as being drawn on the precinct lines. So all 6 of the options before you today satisfy this requirement. As you heard previously, no precincts have been split, and also no census blocks have been split. The third one, there's actually two aspects of this, but I will start with population equality. And this is the idea of one person, one vote that you've probably heard about. This is a principle that comes from the Equal Protection Clause of the United States Constitution. And as I mentioned, there are two parts in the statute that are important to look at. I've broken them into two sections because they are separate inquiries, but they are related in that they both deal with population equality. The first is that the district shall be nearly equal, or as nearly equal in population as possible. So ideally, this would mean that we would have 6 districts of 23,264 people and 1 district of 23,263, because you can't split people into parts. So that's what we are aiming for. That's the ideal target. And unlike congressional districts, the 8 districts that we have in Minnesota, those have to hit that ideal. You do not have to reach that target, but you do have to try to come as close as possible. This is the second part of the statute that talks about population equality, and it sets a limit on how far the districts can deviate from that ideal target size. The maximum deviation is 10%. And I want to be clear, that's a maximum, and courts have made it clear that the true goal is population equality, and not all deviations will be okay just because they are under that 10% limit. For example, there's a case, Ziles versus Rice County, where the plan that they picked had a district that deviated by 9.2%, and the county did not explain why it picked that plan when there were other options that had much less deviation. So if you take nothing else from my presentation today, please keep in mind that the true goal is 0 deviation, not 10%. There is a table in my memorandum that presents some data about how much the districts in each plan deviate from the ideal. And I will start with column A. And the underlying information is in page 1 of the portfolio that you have. That's the 17-page printout. And I believe there were copies that were available at the door for the members of the public. Column A, which is highlighted here, shows the average or the mean deviation for the plan. And this is done by taking each district's percentage deviation as an absolute value. For example, a negative 1.8 would just become 1.8. You add those values together for all of the districts within the plan and then divide the result by 7. The average the average deviation in Plan 3, for example, it deviates from the ideal district population by 1.38%. So that's how column A works. On this slide, I've addressed columns B through C together because they are interrelated. I've also included a number line at the bottom because it sometimes helps to visualize positive or negative deviations by imagining 0 in the middle as the target that we're trying to reach. Negative deviations, that is districts that are underpopulated, are to the left or on the red, and positive deviations, which are districts that are overpopulated, are to the right, or the blue. Column B has for each plan the district that has the largest negative deviation. And so that would be the district within the plan that is the furthest to the left, or on the red on the number line. Column C is the opposite. It has the district for each plan that has the largest positive deviation. And column D represents the overall range, which is sometimes called total deviation. And that's the spread between the 2 largest deviations in the plan, the one on the left-hand side, which is the negative, to the one that's the furthest to the right on the positive side. So imagine both B and C plotted on a number line, and it's the distance between them. And so the takeaways that you can get from this table: all districts in all 6 proposed plans are well within the 10% maximum deviation that's allowed by statute. In fact, no district in any of the proposed plans deviates from the ideal by more than 4%, which is under half, which is what was being discussed as a goal earlier, is to get under 5%. The smallest deviation range, or the spread for any plan, is 4.21%, that's Plan 5. The largest deviation range is 6.2%, which is Plan number 1. The smallest average deviation for any plan is 1.34%, that's Plan 5, and the largest average deviation for any plan is 2.11%. In terms of staying within the 10% statutory limit for deviation, all of the plan's average deviations, those are the ones in column A, They are proportionally similar to the average deviations for the state legislative districts, that's for the state house and the state senate, that were created by the special redistricting panel earlier this year. They had a 2% limit, and so I just looked at it in terms of proportion, but it is comparable. Moving on, there's yet another requirement in the statute, and the words are a little twisty here, but this is actually fairly straightforward. It says that a majority of the least populous districts in a plan need to contain a majority of the county's population. And here's an example of what that means. This is a hypothetical where we have 5 districts. So we look at the 3 least populous, add them up, and see if the total is greater than the 2 most populous districts. This example fails the requirement. The one with the greater number of districts should have the larger number of people. And so here's how it works out in the plans that are before you today. As you can see here, we take the population of the 4 least populous districts for each plan. That's the column to the left. And then we compare it to the column on the right, which is the population of the 3 most populous districts. And as you can see, this works out appropriately in all 6 plans. The next requirement is contiguity, which refers to connectedness and not having islands of territory. And here, the districts in each of the proposed plans do comprise contiguous territory, except there are situations where there are islands of the city of Rochester that are located in neighboring townships and vice versa. That's just how the county boundaries work. That sometimes does happen. The image on the left here is from the Minnesota Secretary of State's redistricting guide. It says you are allowed to keep, the island and the mainland together. It's just a matter of numbering with the precincts. So the fact that it sometimes occurs in these redistricting plans is just a function of how the boundaries work in the county of Olmsted. An example from the proposed plans is that image on the right. The purple island is part of, I think, District 6 in Plan 4. Compactness is another requirement. The language says that the districts must be as regular and compact in form as practical, depending on the geography of the county involved. So what does that mean? Here we have examples of a regular or compact shape would be a circle, a square, a rectangle. This is a classic illustration of a compact circle, which is considered the ideal. And then we have on the right a shape that is not compact. But you'll notice that the statute does not require perfectly compact shapes or even regular shapes. The statute recognizes that the geography of the county might mean that districts are irregularly shaped. And just for an example here, this is the map of Olmsted County. You can see that the boundaries for the cities and the townships, they aren't perfect squares, they aren't rectangles. In fact, the city of Rochester has grown into a pretty irregular shape just through decades of annexations. Another point is that when we're considering compactness, ideally it would assume that people are spread evenly throughout a territory. And here we know that there are the population density changes in different parts of the county. So that will have an impact on whether districts can be, perfectly regular shapes or not. So if a boundary follows the city boundary here for the city of Rochester, it's not going to be a tidy shape. One thing I wanted to mention, here we've been looking at, just a visual inspection of compactness. There are mathematical measures for compactness. There's quite a few of them, and there's actually no law that requires a particular measure to be performed or even a set of measures. But just today I was notified that county staff has done an analysis of the compactness of these districts. I believe you've been presented with that memo. And so what the important part of that, I think, is there is a table that was created, and it shows for each district, so D1 through D7, it looks at to see in which plan is that district the most compact or the least compact. And this was done by measuring the distance roughly from the center and looking at the deviations, and this was weighted for population, but not for area. So if you want to look at that table, for example, so Plan 1, If you look across the rows, Plan 1 has 2 of the most compact districts when you look across the board, and 2 of the least compact districts. Plan 2 has 1 of the most compact districts and 1 of the least compact districts, and so on and so forth. And I believe the staff member is available to answer more detailed questions on the qualitative analysis for compactness. But when I reviewed it, it appears that the compactness data says what it says, and it does not appear that there's anything to be really concerned about on that point. Moving on to one of the requirements, we've finished up the statutory requirements from the state, and now we'll turn to some requirements that are rooted in the U.S. Constitution and the Federal Voting Rights Statute. And there are 2 kind of main takeaways here. One is that districts must not be drawn with either the purpose or the effect of denying or abridging the voting rights of any United States citizen on account of race, ethnicity, or membership in a language minority group. And as you have heard, staff did not have a purpose like that in drawing these district lines. The second part is that districts should be drawn to protect the equal opportunity of racial, ethnic, and language minorities to participate in the political process and elect candidates of their choice, whether they act alone or in alliance with others. And you might be thinking, well, how do we evaluate that? For example, the board must not attempt to dilute voting power based on race by doing what is referred to as cracking or packing based on race. Here, cracking is when you divide a population among multiple districts so that they cannot get a majority in the district. Here's an example of cracking that happened in Utah several years ago. Salt Lake City is indicated by that black rectangle in the center, and there was a green district that took a little bite out of the city to break up a population group that was located in the city. It's like if you have a pizza and you cut it into pieces and then nobody gets the middle because all of the side pieces have it. So if there was a particular racial group, for example, that was concentrated in the city of Rochester, or I'm sorry, in the city here, you could make the argument that the lines were drawn to crack the voting power of that racial group. The other example of a strategy that can be used for ill is packing, and that is when you have you concentrate a population into 1 or a few districts that group will win by a majority, but they will have no voice in other districts. And so here are 2 examples of what it might look like if a district is designed to kind of grab certain populations that aren't necessarily located next to each other. The one on the right is commonly referred to as the headphones district, and the one on the right is in Maryland. And
so would those be construed as compact districts? I'm confused.
No, and so it is kind of all
I see that with my
interrelated.
tongue over here.
No, but so the compactness actually can play into this as well. If there's something that's going wrong that might be considered shady, you could see it kind of in the compactness. I will say that at least one of these was actually drawn on purpose because it was determined that in the past there had been racially motivated districts, and these were drawn to correct that. So these actually were drawn based on race, but at the order of a court. But I didn't see anything like this in the proposed districts we have here.
Thank you.
So with that in mind, let's look at this map. I think we've seen it before. This comes from page 17 of the portfolio, and it shows the distributions of persons who are Black, Indigenous, and people of color across the county. And in my letter and in the slides here, I use that term BIPOC. That's what the state redistricting panel used this time around. It's not the language that the census used, though. So just for clarity, when the materials refer to BIPOC, I'm talking about everyone who doesn't fall into the census category of non-Hispanic white, which is the language that you've been hearing here today. The BIPOC population for the county is 23.4% of the total population. And anyway, when you look at this map, we see that the census blocks where there is a high BIPOC percentage, those blocks aren't solely concentrated, for example, in the city of Rochester. They are widely distributed across the county. And when you compare this map with the maps throughout the portfolio, I did not see any instances of obvious packing or cracking with regard to these populations. With regard to protecting equal opportunity, this can be done by drawing districts where the voting age population, which is 18, years older or older is 15 or 50% or more BIPOC. This is sometimes called a majority minority district, or you can draw districts where the voting age population is 30% or more BIPOC, which is sometimes called a minority opportunity district. These districts can give residents of Olmsted County an increased opportunity to influence their commissioners and to elect commissioners of their choice should they choose to vote together. And I think it was mentioned earlier, there are no proposed majority minority districts in any of these 6 plans today, but that's not surprising given the distribution of BIPOC populations in Olmsted County, and given that the population is 23.4% of the total population. However, all of the proposed plans here do include multiple districts where the population is more than 30% BIPOC for the total population, and where the voting age population is more than 20% BIPOC. There is a table in the memo on page 6, and I will present it here. Oh, I'm sorry. There is a reverse. There we go. It's presented in the table here. So for example, on the left, I've got the column where it's the total population that is BIPOC, where you have districts that are more than 30%. Plan 1 has 2 districts, and there's also a third district that's almost 30%, 29.6%. And that situation occurs also in Plan 3, where you have 2 districts, but there's another district that is 29.2%. So as you can see, there are multiple districts in each of these plans where the total BIPOC population is more than 30%. If we move on to the next column, the one on the right, that's looking at the voting age BIPOC population. And you have a number of districts, 2 to 4 actually, in each plan, where that is more than 20%. And I have 2 notations there. In Plan 3, there are 2 districts, but there is an additional district that is 19.2% BIPOC, or almost 20%. And then in Plan 5, you have actually, I think there is an actual minority opportunity district in Plan 5 because it has 30.1% BIPOC, which would be above 30%. And then finally, for additional considerations, you may have noted in the materials there were plan goals that were considered by county staff. I've addressed some of these already, such as no precinct splits, which is a requirement of the statutes. And then there were some additional ones, such as least change, considering communities of interest, and then talking about the number of Rochester focused districts. And all of these are legitimate considerations for you, but you should not subordinate them to the statutory and constitutional requirements that I've already talked about today. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those. Otherwise, I would just like to thank you for the opportunity to serve the people of Olmsted County.
Thank you.
Thanks. Informative.
All right. So now I am looking for a motion to.
So moved.
Second.
All right, our public hearing is open, so if anyone would like to speak to the board regarding your opinions of any of these districts or to advise us, you're welcome to do so. To step to the mic and give your name and address and let us know what you think.
Good afternoon. Amy Cockett, 716 28th Street in Rochester, Northwest. I'm representing the Rochester League of Women Voters. We've been watching the process diligently since it started, and certainly even back during the census time. And we want to applaud the staff's efforts in making district populations as equal as possible, and their transparency on the demographics and the population data which accompany the maps. All districts show low population variance, close or less than 2%, and we think that you did the best job on limiting population variance on maps 2 through 5. We find that maps 4 and 5 provide the best opportunity for effective minority representation, with both maps giving District 3 36% minority representation, and the Minnesota State Supreme Court Redistricting Panel specifically attempted to create minority opportunity districts, which you just heard about, given that a large part of the state's population increase is due to the growth of minority groups. We are glad to see that you are doing this in both maps 4 and 5. LWV Rochester urges you to select either map 4 or 5 as preferred redistricting choices, both due to the low population variance as well as the best opportunity for effective minority representation districts. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak?
Somewhere in one of my pockets. First of all, I'm Jim Frost. I live at 1 11th Avenue Northwest in Rochester. And I'd like to address some of the things the League of Women Voters have said. I very much respect their goals, but I believe in some cases they've been overly influenced by a very local minority who insists that Rochester residents should be guaranteed 5 commissioner districts. And I believe that every single one of the maps gives Rochester all the representation they are entitled to and all that they should have. It takes, as you all know, 4 votes to accomplish anything, which means Rochester is virtually in every plan guaranteed 4 votes. If there is an issue that influences Rochester, it is almost absolutely guaranteed to pass. When we have districts that represent both rural and city interests, no commissioner can reasonably expect to be elected unless they represent both. And I also know that this is not the Rochester Council. This is the Olmsted Council, the Olmsted County Council. No reason why Rochester should be considered to be not a part of Olmsted County, but rather Olmsted County a part of Rochester. So I urge you to vote the best choice without insisting absolutely that Rochester have 5 votes. And lastly, there's an interesting article I found called Identifying Urban-Rural Resident Precipitations of Community Character and Local Institutions in 8 Metropolitan Areas. It was published in City and Community in 2018. And one of the important things in that article is that people do not consider what they think based on drawing lines. If I take my magic imaginary laser and draw a line right up through the center, Mr. Pine did not suddenly change his opinion. He still has something in common with his neighbors on both sides. And the same is true of city interests. Drawing a line on a map doesn't decide what people think. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. Would anybody like to speak to this? Would anybody else like to speak to this? This will be my 3rd and final time. Would anybody else like to speak about this?
Move to close public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is closed. All right. So, we've heard. Are there any thoughts we'd like to share before we take this under advisement?
There is one comment I would like to make.
Sure.
That for the benefit of the public or anybody here or listening or watching, you may have seen or heard from some individuals that accused our planning department of blatant gerrymandering in some of the maps. And as you have now heard from the consultant that we hired, that not a word of that is true, that every single one of these maps meets every part of both spirit, intent, and adherence to the laws that exist both in the state and the federal government. So if you hear that, please challenge it, question it, and say, that's not what we're hearing. Thank you.
Mark?
Sure, Jim.
Commissioner Beer, I've represented District 5 for 20 years. And in line with some of the comments that I've seen on Twitter, and I'm not a Twitterverse, I'm a twit, but I'm not a tweeter, as some people may think of it. You know, when I first got it's District 5, it includes Byron, all of Calmer Township, half of Cascade Township, and when I first started, it was 68% of my constituents lived in the city of Rochester. Right now, under the current plan, I believe it's about 74%, round numbers. So the majority of my district are constituents of Rochester. I've strived very hard to represent Olmsted County in all interests. And I'd like to think that I've been effective. And I really do kind of take umbrage on some of these things that are said. And I'd like to point out for people that think that I'm a Rochester person or a Byron person or a rural person, I've run 6 elections. And I'm pretty proud of my record. And I think if you look, out of 6 elections, and there's probably 8 or 9 precincts in every election, I've lost 2 precincts out of 6 elections. So if you do the math, the people, either they're really dumb or they think I've been doing a job for them. And I'm kind of proud of that record. And I'd like that just stated to circumvent some of these things. Usually I don't read that junk on Twitter, but it bothered me this time. And so I'd just like to go on record saying I think I've done a good job. Thank you.
Any other thoughts? I'll just take the time to thank our staff. I mean, they did bang up work. The amount of information that they gave to us and the options they put forward in front of us were fantastic. So I'm proud of the work that our staff did, and I thank you guys for doing that work. All right, and so as I'll reiterate, this board will have a special meeting on next Tuesday at 9 a.m. Isn't it? Yeah, I think it's
Tuesday the 26th.
Thursday, Tuesday.
Tuesday. It's got to be up to the state by Thursday, Ken.
Yep. So 9 a.m. next Tuesday, the 26th, we will decide. So, thank you for your interest. All right. Next up, the consent agenda. Approve the April 5th minutes. Proclaim May 1st through 7th as Correctional Officers Week. Proclaim April 26th County Employee Appreciation Day. Recognize the Pinwheels for Prevention Award for Olmsted County and Families First of Minnesota. Award OWEF Refractory Repair Services Contract 2022-128. Approve Public Health Director appointment and resolution. Adopt ROCOG Organizational Agreement. Approve amended Olmsted County Highway Right-of-Way Plat 246. Award Correctional Healthcare Services Contract for the Adult Detention Center and Work Release Facility. Adopt Contract Approval Policy and accept Rural Health Assessment Grant Award.
Move approval.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Carries. Next up, our regular agenda. First up, it's my favorite thing of the year, the Rochester Olmsted County Youth Commission Awards. And then afterwards, we will have a reception. So who would like to speak to this?
We have some visitors coming in.
Okay, you're welcome to.
We got to get married.
We'll give you time to seat.
Mary. Is she coming? I assume Mary's coming, isn't she? Here.
Here either. They're waving.
Didn't see her.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, some of you, I hear you asking about Mary Gorfy and our normal staff person for Youth Commission. She is on medical leave right now. So
Okay.
we will be presenting, we'll carry on as usual, but just a shout out, we know that she does a great job and we hope she feels better soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so who will be writing these awards?
Who's running the show?
The kids will be running the award ceremony.
Okay, great.
All right.
This chair's up front. Oh, this chair's up front. It's like church.
Chairs up front.
Sit in the first row.
Yeah, this is like church. You got to get here early if you want to sit back.
Good afternoon. My name is Gori Sood, and this is my 3rd year on the Rochester Olmsted Youth Commission. So thank you for taking time today to host the 26th Annual Outstanding Youth Awards. This event is one of the highlights of our year as youth commissioners. The Youth Commission is a partnership between Olmsted County and the City of Rochester. We were established in 1993, and our purpose is to promote civic engagement and leadership opportunities for young people in Olmsted County. We come from all walks of life, and we represent a cross-section of cultures, ethnicities, faith communities, and opinions. The young people you have supported through the Youth Commission membership and activities are making positive differences both here in Olmsted County and around the globe. They are participating in community and national service, have careers in education, healthcare, business, and government. Thanks to you, our community is known for the value we place on youth participation in community life and decision-making. Today, you will meet 6 young people who are being recognized for their personal growth, leadership, and strength of character. Some of them have overcome obstacles in their lives from which many of us might have never recovered. Their courage and determination to succeed is matched only by their dedication and acceptance of the adults who have supported them on their journey. Our first Outstanding Youth Award winner is Riles Murray, and their nominators are Amy Petersley, Nicole Wibstad, and Joan Liedemann Hernandez. Riles has lived their personal values and has been an exemplary leader in their school community and in the greater Rochester community. Riles has faced deep personal challenges and has demonstrated grit and resilience in working through them. They're making positive differences for others through their service. Riles nominators first met Riles in fall 2020 when they transferred to Rochester Alternative Learning Center, commonly referred to as the ALC. Distance learning was difficult for Riles due to the challenge of moving among different homes of friends and families. Riles previously struggled with school due to mental health concerns and feeling like the educational system design was not meeting their personal needs. During distance learning, Riles learned to use the Rochester bus system and steadily worked a part-time job at Target. Riles lived their personal commitment to growth by working with the school therapist and maintaining a strong working relationship with their academic advisor.
Could you slow down just a little bit? I know you're nervous, but just thanks.
Sure. During distance learning, Rochester ALC offered a class called Reach One, Teach One, partnering with Planned Parenthood. Riles signed up to be part of this class, which teaches students how to become mentors by providing accurate sexual health information to peers. From there, Riles learned about an opportunity to be part of another group through Planned Parenthood called Teen Counsel. Riles applied and was accepted as a teen representative. This group is committed to providing formal presentations, community service, and reproductive rights advocacy. Riles was also actively involved in the local period project, which gathered period products for individuals in need. Riles is also an active member of the Rochester Area Learning Center Social Justice Leadership Team. This is a building-wide team which helps to guide staff leadership decisions and serves as an important voice in initiatives and improvements at the ALC. As a consistent team member, Riles has created and led presentations for staff on gender equity and has championed a variety of racial and social justice issues. Riles has shared their personal experience with other youth and has also helped other students understand white privilege and ways that white privilege is manifested in their lives. Riles advocates for positive change at the ALC. Most recently, Riles has started up an after-school fitness program, and they are working with another teacher and student to create a cultural appreciation seminar for the ALC's Student-Centered Learning Wednesdays. The plan for this class is to discuss 3 different cultures each week, as well as interviews and hands-on activities. At the end of each class, they will discuss the differences between cultures and share appreciation for the differences. Rochester Alternative Learning Center is very proud of Riles and the ways they have faced challenges, grown personally, and have chosen to give back. Youth commissioners are also very proud of you, Riles. Congratulations.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Perhaps the students need to know that they're welcome to speak if they choose to, but not required to. So congratulations to Riles from the board as well.
Yep.
Congratulations.
My name is Isha Kapoor, and I have been a youth commissioner for 2 years. Our next Outstanding Youth Award winner is Tay Boyd, and her nominators are Amy Petersley, Justin Trueblood, and Nicole Wibstad. Tay is joining us remotely. Tay Boyd is an active Rochester Alternative Learning Center student who has gone above and beyond in her work as a leader in the school community. Her nominators met Tay in fall of 2019 at the beginning of her 10th grade year, and she quickly became involved in the school community. She's been a key member in her school leadership team and developed staff training regarding the need for curriculum that represents students from all backgrounds. Tay facilitated the training on a non-student day and gave her time to further social justice work at the ALC. Because of her work, staff made and kept commitments to incorporate Black history and accomplishments into their curriculum. Tay has also been one of 4 students leading the work to advocate for and design the first in school history ALC dance. She created a presentation to school administration and gathered staff and student support to create this community event. As one of 2 student representatives on the building-wide school leadership team, comprised of staff leads, community partners, and family representatives, Tay has contributed her student perspective and positively impacted school climate and culture. She attends these meetings outside the school day as a member of the team to provide a student voice in building-wide decisions. These accomplishments are especially significant, considering Tay has experienced family conflict resulting in 2 moves, both out of state, during her time as a student. Tay has shared her struggles with anxiety and depression, and she works closely with a school-based therapist. She's currently living out of town and is continuing her schoolwork and leadership remotely through virtual connections. Tay's nominators tell us that the ALC community would not be what it is today without the significant contributions of Tay Boyd. The school dance, classroom discussions, and staff commitments to curricular representation and Black voice have been direct results of Tay's impactful work. We are appreciative of Tay's leadership and want to thank her for being an outstanding youth in our community. Youth Commission thanks you too, Tay. We are so proud of you and the work you are doing.
My name is Levi Hansen, and I've been a member of Youth Commission for about a year now, and I'm proud to introduce to you Amel Afo. When Amel was just a year old in Ethiopia, the government sent the military to their town to kill all of the men. Amel and her family escaped to Kenya as refugees, where life was incredibly challenging in the camps. Her parents had a hard time finding work, and there were a lot of days where they would wake up hungry with nothing to eat. The family waited a long 15 years before their refugee status was finally approved, and they could travel permanently to the United States. Amel found that things were very different between Kenya and Rochester, Minnesota. It was like starting all over again with school, making friends, learning a new language, and getting accustomed to the culture. She practiced English with her cousins, and with hard work, in just a short time, she was able to exit the English Language Learner Program. This year, as a senior, Amel has shown a great deal of self-motivation and drive in her desire to apply for college acceptance. She has sought out help when needed, kept her appointments, and completed several college applications, financial aid applications, and scholarship applications. She has a dream for herself. She wants to be the first in her family to go to college. She says that the people in Ethiopia are asking people who made it to the U.S. to educate themselves and to return later to Ethiopia to help rebuild their country. Amel plans to study engineering. She says, in Ethiopia we have lots of doctors and nurses, but we need people to repair buildings, fix electrical problems, and more. She knows that this dream won't happen all on its own. It will require a series of smaller actions, and inch by inch she will move closer to it. She has her eye on her goals and is willing to do the work that it will take to accomplish it. Amel says, my parents always say that if I'm successful in college, that will mean they are successful too. It will be a win for the whole family. Amel was accepted into Winona State University and will begin the next step of her journey. We are so proud of you, Amel, and we will know you find purpose and success in your life. Congratulations.
Hello, my name is Nandini Iyer, and I have been a youth commissioner for 2 years. And next, it is my privilege to introduce you to Ashley Rosado and her nominator, Sweeta Patel. When Ashley first started 9th grade at Century High School, she was eager to make friends, and she picked the first group who looked her way. Their drama became her drama, and she spent most of her time wanting to know who said what and who was talking about who. She started failing more of her classes, skipping, leaving school, smoking weed, and losing interest in school. Ashley's friends were older and had cars to go places. They offered her a means of escape, One day they introduced her to a controlled substance. Ashley can't remember when her addiction started, but she remembers feeling depressed, something she has lived with for most of her life. She reached her lowest point when she was in the car with her older friend who was high. They got into a car accident right on North Broadway, and Ashley described it as happening in the blink of an eye. Airbags in her face, severe pain in her neck, and a very bruised chest. Her friend, the driver, was only interested in where their pills were, not asking if Ashley was okay. Ashley remembers very little after that, including how either of them got home that day. The missing memories were the result of the Xanax she had taken and a concussion. While Ashley may not remember the details of the day, she does clearly remember how she felt. I felt that I was not important. That was the turning point for Ashley. She didn't know how easy it is to abuse pills and prescription drugs and get addicted to them until she was the person it was happening to. Ashley is now 1 year sober. Earlier this semester, Ashley decided to share her story publicly with ALC students. She wanted her peers to learn from her experiences with addiction and to inspire positive choices. She concluded that presentation with the following: I came to the ALC because I chose to get a new start. Even if you've had bumps in the road, it's got to start with you and what you decide to want as a change, to better yourself. You are the author of your story. What will you do with it? We know the story you will tell in the future is one of pride in yourself and dedication to others, Ashley. We are so proud of you and congratulations.
Hi, thank you guys for having me. My name is Salma Abdi, and this is my 4th year on a youth commission. And it is my pleasure to introduce you to Adang Mawian and her nominator, Cheryl Sanderfoot, who's in the audience. Cheryl told us that Adang came to the night school program at the ALC this past fall, her true senior year, but short of the number of credits she needed to graduate in June. In middle school, Adang's mother worked nights, so Adang was responsible for caring for her 3 younger brothers. During this time, adults could tell that she wanted to do well in school, yet the pull of peer pressure from friends to make poor choices controlled her. Adang got into many fights and was not doing well in her classes. Eventually, one of the fights she was involved in led to the involvement in the courts and subsequent consequences. Adang was 12 years old when she first started delivering for the Post Bulletin, and 15 when she started working at Chipotle. So Adang attended Mayo High School her 9th grade year, and it seemed to go well at first, until she became overwhelmed with all the work. She struggled with her classes and began to skip. By her junior year, Adang wasn't attending classes much and was angry and frustrated. She lived with her older sister her junior year, and there have been many times when her mother would return to Sudan with the family for 3 months at a time. During this time, Adang and her older sister would be in charge of her 3 younger brothers and would be responsible for paying the bills, buying groceries, and running her family. Adang continues to help support the family, working full-time while attending school full-time. The fall of her senior year, which is 2021-2022, Adang came to the night school program at the ALC, and she began to blossom both academically and personally. From the first day she started working with her nominator, Cheryl, she has been hardworking, receptive to suggestions, and any needed changes to her schedule to keep her working towards earning credit and graduation. Adang has done additional credit recovery classes with Cheryl, taking extra work home over weekends and holiday breaks. Adang has taken the heaviest load of night school classes that she can while working full-time. With all of her hard work, focus, and determination, Adang will graduate in June with her peers. Adang's personal growth has been in her communication skills. She has always been quiet and shy, but today, she is an emerging leader in the classroom. Participating and advocating for herself, once she graduates, Adang plans to work for a year, then look into schooling, with her goal being to own her own business in making extensions and wigs for all hair types. Cheryl told us how fortunate she feels to have had the opportunity to work with Adang and witness her growth. Congrats, Adang, and we are so proud of you.
Hi, my name is Rishikesh Krishnan, and I have been part of the Youth Commission for 4 years, and it is my pleasure to introduce you to Maya Mines and her nominator, Amy Petersley, who's here in the audience. For Maya, until 10th grade, mental health and medical issues got in the way of her education. At a young age, struggling with headaches that would send her to the doctors regularly. The doctors would say that her headaches were normal and recommended typical treatment. The headaches got significantly worse at the age of 12, and moving into Maya's 8th grade year, she couldn't focus on school because of the pain and mental health issues. Maya was hospitalized twice for battling depression, anxiety, and night anxiety. Problems at home compounded with her feelings of hopelessness. Maya registered to attend the Rochester Alternative Learning Center her freshman year for a fresh start. She continued to struggle, although the doctors still attributed that to fewer migraines and mental illnesses. Finally, towards the end of her 9th grade year, Maya reached a point where she realized she needed to try harder with her coping strategies and push through the headache and pains. She started building better relationships at home through skills and circle process she learned through the ALC. Communication improved, and finally Maya felt she had someone to talk to at home, as well as at school. Maya regularly visited the clinic on site at the ALC because of the headaches. They arranged for a specialist, and the results of the test and the MRI revealed that Maya was suffering from a condition in which brain tissue extends into the spinal canal. Maya went in for a major brain surgery. After the surgery, while she wasn't 100%, she still felt a huge relief knowing that her symptoms were real and not all in her head. Mentally, Maya felt so much better. School became easier, she became more confident, making plans to stay on top of her academics. Maya has finished all her graduation requirements in three quarters early and is currently enrolled in the PSEO program at RCTC. She isn't really sure what her end goal will be, but she knows she wants to start her starting point to be completing her EMT certification. Amy told us that it has been amazing to watch Maya grow over these past 4 years. Coming in as a freshman, Maya had little motivation and was a passive participant in her life. But today, Maya is sitting in the driver's seat and is challenging herself and navigating all obstacles that come in her way. We are incredibly proud of you, Maya, and congratulations and best wishes on the rest of your journey. All right, so this concludes our program. Thank you so much for helping us celebrate the success of these exceptional young people, and we are a better community because of them and caring adults who have worked with them. Everyone is invited to the short reception at the Rotunda for our winners, and we ask that the county board members please take a few minutes for some pictures here in the boardroom. Thank you.
That's right.
Just, we do this and it's every year, and just a couple things, thoughts from overseeing this 20 years. Mary Gorfine has done a heck of a job over the years with this youth commission, and I know she can't be here today, but I'd like to again publicly recognize her for the great, tremendous job she's done over the years. That being said, these kids, I mean, when you hear about all the problems we got and how people don't get along, when you see this type of thing, it really gives me hope. I don't know if I hope it does for everybody else. So thanks a lot.
Indeed. Congratulations.
Congratulations to everyone for the accomplishments you've made, for the student-to-student supports, for those of you who have overcome obstacles to get recognition, and the family members who are here in the room with them, and those nominators as well, as we look across this room and see how we believe in one another and we help one another, and people can overcome obstacles. It is, as my colleague says, it does give one hope, but I get hope from looking across the whole room, in addition to the students that we've honored today and those who chose to honor them. So thank you everyone for being here, and best wishes to each of those students that you find that pathway that you've been seeking and continue to have such success.
Say, let them eat cake.
Yeah, I think I'd just like to say that I I'm very appreciative of the school district, Rochester School District, and other small districts that have programs that we do here in Rochester so that we can provide the kinds of education that students really need and that they can excel at. I also appreciate the faculty who work in those programs, who have a great deal of experience, that have worked with students for their careers and helped them with the leg up. And I also appreciate the students who, by your own efforts, have made the commitment to do the best thing for yourself that you can do, and that's to stay in school and graduate and move on. So, congratulations.
All right, let's have a little cake and we'll recess and then we'll get back to work after a little while.
Anytime. Here, the public sometimes thinks other than you.
All good. Yeah, it was like they could tell right away. I didn't. Well, I got in early. Got in early. Got in ultrasound and back looks at it. No blood clotting, so they can see. That's right. The fluid and something.
Did you see this part of the program?
At your orders.
Go home and be in pain.
No.
Go forward.
Surgery, something. Just go.
I started this youth commission. And one of the people recruited
it is
my
definitely.
Oh my word.
Are you serious?
How did that feel to speak?
I would have guessed a lot. That's how I feel.
I'm glad to have that behind you. What's the one? We're gonna have.
That should be in Vegas. That should be in Vegas. Really? So too?
I thought that's
Next week. You're over the hump.
Yeah.
I didn't guess.
Yes, I did. I was a winner already.
I went with Jim's assessment that he's a spouse.
Yeah. You want me to bring you cake? You want me to bring you cake? That's really a man. Chairperson.
They do?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. Well, get behind him. Behind.
Yeah. I don't know. You have to get around there. There you go.
I wish you would go.
Things that we're doing to our knees.
For me.
Just tell me yours.
Yeah, just tell me your
Good idea.
Well, that's all we got.
There you go.
I get to keep them.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah.
I really meant what I said. Mrs. Sanderson, how are you? Yes, I haven't seen that. Long time.
You never know.
We'll never know
Yeah,
until the final.
exactly. Somebody from school or
My wife's graduate again.
no, do definitely do well. I mean that.
You guys have any?
I have a list and I don't even know what it's all on it. I gotta see.
You're gonna. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, it's nothing, no one close, but maybe we can chat tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Call whenever. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
And I'd like to then, I think I should join this monthly meeting, these two meetings, and then we can probably so I did, he and I talked, just to get your perspective. Okay.
I know. They're ready for scorecards.
I hope they really get back up and entertain themselves.
They got it done earlier than that.
Yeah, I thought so. I was
So
really,
nice.
really, that was okay. Yeah, so.
Yeah, it was. Not process. Somebody down Keep it aside for me. Do you want to help?
Yeah. It will be just wow. Beginning to end. There we go.
All the support here.
That's right. You got this cheering crowd. So I need you to introduce yourself.
I've heard the name several times,
But I think I don't know how it is.
I mean, that's.
All right, you'll be in
Right.
Well, all the ducks in a row. You're right. Good reminder. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Three camels?
Just in case a meeting really gets out of control, she'll have the ability to.
Damn it. Go ahead.
She's not gonna be there.
That's what it's called.
With a lawyer's garage sale, probably with all those gavels, I don't know who else would have some.
No wonder the judges can't.
Yeah.
Hey, you took them all.
We're gonna draw three meetings to see who gets to have one. Maybe we'll give you one.
Oh, wow. Be honored.
I'm sure it'll be okay with
I didn't think so before. Yeah, I know.
Not going to help you tonight. If you want to get some rest.
It's just like,
Oh, yeah, it's like warranty expired.
So maybe just start with
left at 3:15 or 3:45.
reminding them that this is our third year. Let's do all things.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there any days left?
No, for me, I've got this many days.
Okay.
Yeah, but anyway, at least it's I feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark is the guy. Mark is the guy. He's got.
He's 17.
It's warm enough for
Yeah.
Well, we'll see you at Squashberry Farms.
Yep. That's my plan.
Good, good, good.
And Jim has somebody who's going to remember. The way that he's talking about it sounds like
Sounds like he's done a good job. Good remote. He probably does some votes every night. Yeah, how popular I've been through the years, right? Go there every year, so, yeah.
Oh, God. Stephanie?
He's worried about these two years, he's up early.
Okay, we're back from our recess, and we will go on to the 2021 Countywide Scorecard Results, 2022 updates, and upcoming strategy work.
Good afternoon, everyone. Chair, Commissioners. My name is Niti Shashidharan. I'm a lead management analyst with the Policy Analysis and Communication Department. So I'm here to give an update on the balanced scorecard. Today's highlights, yes, we'll be going through. So just a reminder that this is the third year the county is going through the balanced scorecard process that we started in 2020. So we'll be looking at 2021 scorecard results, looking at some of the updates on the measures and any new measures that we've added in the current year, 2022, and then just some themes and updates from our departmental strategy balanced scorecard. So looking at our 2021 countywide scorecards, we have, what you're seeing here is a snapshot of a countywide scorecard dashboard. So don't strain to look too deep. This is just a snapshot. I will go through each of the measures later, but really wanted to show you the benefit of this tool. It's really gonna giving you that quick look at where we are in our progress. So this is just supplementing our balanced scorecard, the document that you're used to seeing. But what you're seeing here is now we're starting to see our measures in data. We're going to look at it in a graph format. There's a way to look at how we are progressing. And the countywide, as well as all departments, have started using this and started implementing and monitoring. So it's going to help them track 2021 results as well as their current measures. So what you're seeing here is the 10 measures that we had adopted for 2021. And quickly from the colors, you can see that we did meet goals. We did completely meet, and for 8 of the measures, 1 of our measures is in progress, and 1 goal we did not meet. So I'll be going more into detail with each of the measures. So before I go into each, just a refresher that the balanced scorecard has 4 perspectives. The first will look at the resident quality of life. The second is our financial measures. The third is internal processes, and the fourth is looking at our organizational capacity. So the first measure that's in our resident quality of life is looking at, so Olmsted County really rolls out numerous customer satisfaction surveys. So we really want to look at how can we standardize some of these survey questions. This will help us compare, even look at how our services are comparing across the organization. So this is a new measure we adopted in 2021. Again, incorporating some of those key standardized measures, and the goal is, the target was to just complete, and the 4 proposed themes are listed there. So looking at, when we talk about our customers, were their needs met? So really understanding if our customers' needs were met. And then the theme of respect, were they respected when they come to our county from our services? And then process improvement, how can we improve our services? So that's going to be the third theme. And the fourth is standardized demographic questions. So the proposal is to, in all of our countywide customer service surveys, we hope to see these 4 themes in different perspectives. So it doesn't have to be an exact question, but as long as it's following that theme. So in this year, in our current year, the priority is really integrating these themes and looking at all the surveys and determining a process on collecting this data and analyzing it. Moving on to the financial, we have 3 measures here. The first measure is looking at our cash balance as a percent of operating revenues. We did meet this goal. So I'll quickly just explain that graph to your left. The gray bar is showing you the 2020 results. So the results are from the audited 2020 financial statements. The 2021 is the blue bar chart, which is 58.2. That is showing from the unaudited financial statements. And the black is going to show the target. So we did, and the county's target is to stay around that 50% or above. And if you look at the measures and update, the U.S. county's median is about 37. So we are much above that, and our target is to be on the conservative side. And this year is, again, we're going to continue monitoring this measure, and it will also be seen in the 2022 scorecard. Similarly to the cash balance, we are tracking the unrestricted fund balance. We did meet this goal again. The target was chosen by the state auditor's recommendation, which is 42.5%, and our 2021 results is 46.3%. So we are well above that. We did meet the goal. Again, continuing to maintain this measure for our current year. And then the third one in our financial measure is looking at our Olmsted County's levy ranking. So there has been a shift in this. Before, number 1 was the highest levy ranking. Now number 1 will be considered the lowest levy. And Olmsted County is at 29 for 2021. So our target is to be ranked between 1 and 43. So to be on the lower side of the levy. Any questions before I move on? So looking at our third perspective, we are looking at the internal processes. We did have three new measures for 2021. And one of our annual priorities was really to focus on that diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts within the organization. And the measure that the county decided on was to complete a balanced scorecard for the One Olmsted initiative by the year end. So really looking at organizational accountability for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it has been completed, and this year will focus on really implementing and monitoring that balanced scorecard, which the One Olmsted project team will be leading. The second measure in our internal processes is really integrating that enterprise resource planning. So we have two in this category. One is employee self-service, and this was completely introduced. It was completed, and I'm just gonna look. So one of the notes I had here was employees and managers are completely utilizing the self-service, and it's 100% registered. And the number of requests to the human resource department completely reduced. So it's really improved efficiency within our organization and in terms of operational efficiencies. And as part of the strategy for this year is really monitoring employee usage and providing training and support if needed. So one of our measures that we did not complete but is in progress is the Procure-to-Pay process. So one of the notes that I have here, again talking to the team, was the delay in completing this process it was just a new process. You know, they just needed time to understand a new process, and what they moved into is really using a pilot program to understand customer processes, and so that is the progression, but it's in progress. So they also have expectation to complete a roadmap by this summer. So you will be hearing more updates on this in our next scorecard when we come in front of you. So that was the internal processes. Now looking at our organizational capacity, we do have two measures that we look at our employee turnover. So again, for an organization, turnover rate, having a high turnover rate is expensive. We really want to keep that low. And the industry target is to be around that 8 to 12%. So we really hit that market. We really got 8.8%, which is much lower than even 2020. And the next measure we look is actually excluding retirement, which also we met. So we met both the goals. For the excluding retirement, we are looking at a target that's less than 10%. So strategies to maintain this is really looking at recruiting and retaining high quality staff, focusing on onboarding, training initiatives, and really focusing on that new hire cohorts for our current year. So, you know, that'll help them understand our culture just in the get-go. So that'll helping them with that employee engagement and understanding the culture, keeping them happy. It's part of that retainment of our staff. And then the goal we did not meet, but very close to meeting, is our staff race ethnicity as a representation of our community. Again, just a reminder that this was one of the one part of our annual priority is really focusing on bringing in more diverse recruitment. Just wanted to make a note here that we are at 9.6%, which is our full-time employees. So if you include our seasonal employees, we actually did meet that target. So this is at 9.6 is only looking at the full-time employees. And some of the strategies for this year for us to meet that 10%, and also in 2023, our target is at 13%, is to move from a passive recruitment to an active recruitment. So really trying to target and communicate with young adults, 16 to 25 years, increase awareness of our county employment opportunities, really going out and talking about our employment opportunities, developing partnership with professional organizations, and develop information presentation opportunities for high school and community college students. So really getting the word out.
So I have a question about this, and I applaud the goal, but I wonder if we're the previous two slides show that we're working hard to retain people. And then this slide, we want to reach a goal of total of employment, meeting diverse people. Wouldn't we be better served to say of new hires, we meet a goal? Because these goals work against each other. I mean, for us to meet the 13%, we're going to have to get a lot of turnover.
Well, I don't know. I don't know that they totally work against each other because we don't want to lose people. Some of these people fall into both categories. They are people,
Sure.
Well,
that even makes it more difficult to reach the goal.
Yeah. I mean, it's a sort of a balance. I'd say it's kind of a balancing thing because we don't want to lose people for.
No, right, but that's kind of making my point, though. I mean, wouldn't we better say we want 20% of new hires to meet this category so that in 10 years we reach this goal, because we can't reach this goal without losing a big proportion of our employees.
We can think about that. Is Julian here? No.
Yeah, I really think that's a good point. I also want to point out that we're also looking at how our employees are representing the community. So then we also need to look at it as that overall.
Right.
But I get your point with that.
we want to reach the same goal.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying it's almost an impossible goal unless we have a lot of turnover. There's no way we get to 13% if we're at 9.6, unless 9.6. How many employees do we have?
1,300.
Okay, so right now we're at 130 employees of diversity. For us to get to 13%, we're going to have to get 3% more. We're going to have to get the 200 employees, and if we only have a turnover of 7%,
yeah, but you have to balance it against. We don't want. This isn't about some kind of quota of what we're hiring. We have to balance it against that, and so if it takes us a little bit longer, that's probably better than. We can't ever. We also can't control who applies, and so.
Well, there are some things beyond our control.
I hear what you're saying. We'll keep thinking about it.
Well, it's one of those statistical conundrums.
Yeah.
It really is. And then recently we've added a recruiter.
That's right.
So that hasn't had an effect yet.
It will.
That's right.
No, but thank you. We'll take that note.
It's good feedback. It's a good discussion. We just have to keep. We appreciate. The more discussion we have, the better we're gonna get.
Sure.
I do want to point out that one of the strategies is to hire a new recruiter. That would help with that process.
Right.
Okay. So that was the 2021 results. Now looking at the current year, 2022 updates. So for resident quality of life, as you know, we do have our residential survey that's rolled out, and the results will be coming in summer. So there are three measures that we're going to be tracking from that. So the first one is looking at how our residents report satisfaction with our services. Residents reporting quality of life, and then residents rating Olmsted County's performance at fulfilling its vision. So we will be tracking all three of that. Finance, there are no updates, just measures are all in progress. Internal processes, we are looking at one measure from the residential survey, and it's looking at increasing the response rate to a much more diverse group. So we're really trying to see if we are hitting our minority groups, hard to reach communities. So that's, again, that's expected to, the results will only come in July, but that's one measure that we have defined for this year. And the second measure we're looking at is the countywide employee communication. So this is looking at the satisfaction factor of it. So just looking. So 2021, our baseline was 88% of employees rated overall employee communication as excellent or good, and 54% is excellent. So really trying to keep that measure. And then the third measure we're looking at is how are our internal departments serving the other departments, so those internal services. And then that's also using a survey. And again, looking at overall satisfaction with internal departments that provide operational support. And our 2021 baseline was 91. So this is a continuous survey and that we are continuously monitoring. And our 2022 target is just getting 90% satisfaction. Organizational capacity, the first three measures, there are no changes. We're going to keep tracking those. the ones I just explained. And the fourth one is looking at an employee engagement. So a survey was rolled out in 2021. And this is really looking at employees' response to the question, I have opportunities to grow in my department or in the county. And the 2021 result was 73% agreed, agree or strongly agree. So we have a 73%. And then this year, what we are looking at is really looking at that in a very departmental focused way and helping departments come up with an action plan to really improve those measures there.
I have a question about
Sure.
that. So, are we sure that everybody wants to grow in their department or in the county, or they're very satisfied with the job they have? Do we measure that?
So I think it'll be part of, so now we know the results, and then human resources are actually connecting with each department and doing their own kind of questioning. So they're actually connecting with employees and understanding. So I think as part of that, they will understand if what's the other percentage, why they're not satisfied or they don't want to grow.
Mr. Chair, if I could just add a little detail along this line for Commissioner Badalki and we did do not only the survey of employees, but then we also did focus groups, and we asked exactly that question.
Okay.
How do you define growth?
Yeah.
And what does that mean to you? Because you are exactly right that some people, they define growth differently, or they're satisfied with where they're at, and so they said, they didn't answer agree or strongly agree, but that doesn't mean they were dissatisfied.
Yeah.
So we would never, for that reason, we want to continue to hone those questions and understand it at a deeper level. We also want to encourage everybody to find some ways to continue to grow if that's what's going to keep them engaged. So I think your point is a very valid one.
Okay.
So the last section I will be talking about is departmental strategy themes and updates. In 2022, all departments are consistently adding in. So just a refresher, 2021, all departments completed their first balance scorecards. So one thing we realized was there were not a lot of consistent measures across. So in 2022, we will be implementing 2 financial measures that will be seen in all the departments' scorecards, as well as 2 organizational capacity measures. So 2 of the financial measures are really tracking and using the property tax as a percent of actual revenues. This is to help understand the reliance on property taxes over time, and measuring the reserve surplus compared to the adopted budget. So just looking at how each department is using, and this helps us compare internally. And then in terms of our organizational capacity, we are asking departments to track their diverse staff, so employee race and ethnicity proportionality, as well as the employee engagement that we were talking about before. So this will be the update that you will see for this year's balance scorecards in the departments. And then we are also moving on to, departments were creating wellness, employee engagement, and diversity, equity, and inclusion goals. So they were creating it, but then we are trying to align it. We're really trying to bring it together and align it and come up with more integrated action plans. So that's kind of an update to the process that you will see this year. And then we have noticed that a lot of departments, some of the departments are using their internal applications for understanding employee engagement. So using an application called Office Wipe. So just to really supplement the employee engagement, and we just see it as an opportunity for other departments to use it if they want to just help understand. And this is like even creating weekly surveys and understanding how their employees feel or asking questions. So it's just an application that's available. And then departments have been sharing progress and results within their division meetings. So what we have noticed is really helping other department directors understand what are some of the priorities in their peers, and then even
Sorry.
that's a nice background music. And then what we really understood is that, they can really look at other departments' scorecard and see how they can really support helping them really reach those targets. So that was something that we've seen. And then there are also some of the departments are understanding that some measures are really not yearly. So we're seeing them modified for like a 2 to 3 year time frame. So just some updates on that. And then what's coming up next? So this is the last slide. So what's coming up next is you will be hearing the annual board priority updates in the summer. And then we do have a countywide strategic planning kickoff on the board for the committee of the whole on May 3rd. And then just continuing to refine the scorecard process and reporting to align it with the budget process. So that's something that we're continually monitoring.
Mr. Chair, if I could just add one little piece of context for the board about the May 3rd Committee of the Whole. I just want to sort of let everybody know I did write this into some Friday reports, but just so everybody knows, we are thinking about the next board in 2023 and what staff are trying to do from now until the end of the year is really try to get from those of you that are retiring, trying to gather as much of that knowledge, sort of your wisdom about what are we doing well, what are we not doing well before you exit the board. We won't be doing a lot of the strategic planning that you think of traditionally until that new board is.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I think you give us way too much credit.
No,
Speak for yourself.
We're losing a lot of years of experience, and I know there's no way we can capture all that, but you are at a place that you can see very well what we do well and what we're not doing well, and we want to try to harvest that.
I was just kidding.
Maybe you need a joke flag
Go back to the home cam.
Well, that's it from me. Thank you very much.
Appreciate the shuttle will be here any minute. That's right.
All right. Thank you. Anything?
Okay. Before we do board and committee reports, can we get a vote?
I move to approve Divya bylaw.
All right, well, I guess we got a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Wasn't going to try to pronounce.
Okay, Matt, do you have a?
No, I'm fine.
No.
Stephanie?
I just wanted you to all know at the Human Rights Commission, the sheriff gave a report. Last month, the police chief gave a report of all kinds of slides and things that could sort of crossed my eyes a little. And I think our sheriff's slide presentation was better.
No parking tickets for you.
He talked about initiatives and the responsibilities and programs, and it was a positive exchange.
Good.
Great. No. Yeah.
Nope.
Done.
No, but the only thing I had Micah.
What part of no don't you understand?
Right. It's just listen to it, and counties are doing okay on priorities, but it's a mess. I mean, right, Greg, there's no decisions. I mean, it's all just.
What are you talking about?
These amorphous bubbles in the air.
What?
He's babbling.
Amorphous bubbles.
The state. Oh.
Talking about amorphous bubbles.
Oh, the state. Okay.
Okay, I'm just going to offer
We're going to get 600,000.
a quick quote from author John Maxwell. He said, "The pessimist complains about the wind. The optimist expects it to change. The leader adjusts the sails."
Hails.
Sales.
Hail.
No adjourn.
Very good.
Adjourned. Thank you, guys.
And having
How are you? How are you? Not yet. Not yet.
Sounds like it's going to get better soon.
Okay.
well too. That's really heard.
Yeah, you too.
Do you?
Oh, yeah.
People have to say.
And then this is a public meeting, next week.